Word to your mother.
Happy
It's
Mother's Day.
Desk of Ladyada.
Taking a break from being a mom. Time to do some engineering. So
Happy Mother's Day, your
thank
mom.
you. I am.
And it's been fantastic to watch a new consciousness come into this world and have you guide her into this amazing, wonderful, and yet challenging world. And I'm so glad you have a very good knowledge base of dinosaurs. It has come in handy. They said it never would.
I just happened to, well, I mean, you read like one book and you're just like, now I know a lot about dinosaurs. Okay, so did you want to jump into news and stuff?
Yes, let's do that right away.
Okay.
So for the people who are reading the Sunday paper, open up whatever section and you will see maybe Adafruit in USA Today. Could you open up your web browser later today?
Yeah,
Go to
it's
USA
open.
Today.
There you go.
Okay, so you can search for Adafruit on USA Today. I believe it's in print. We're going to go walk and find it, but it says electronic company post bill over 36K tariff charge announces price increases. We posted up our DHL bill. We did some analysis, $36,000 on inbound. We are a USA manufacturer. These are things for components. We manufacture in the US. We manufacture in the US. Doesn't matter though. Doesn't matter if you do or not. There's components that are for electronics that are only made in China. So anyways, can you click the...
Well, that doesn't matter because now there's tariffs on every country.
Exactly. So click the story link, Ladyada. Okay, scroll down. People can read it later. But yeah, just read about it. Lots of journalists are talking to us. We have a bunch of media things, and we're just radically transparent. So we're showing everything.
Yeah, I'm just being very, very factual. I think you can... Yeah.
Go to our press section, adafruit.com/press, Ladyada, and we are putting these up real time so everyone can see.
Yeah.
Adafruit was mentioned along with Funko. They have things going on. PC Magazine is talking about what's going on with Adafruit. We are the center of so many.
Well, I think we're like just being. What's funny is
people
that,
are like, we are the canary in the mine, in the Minecraft. They say now.
Yeah.
So, what do you think?
No, I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is what's going on. So, all right, Ladyada, take it away. That's a new segment.
Okay. So yeah, you can check it out. And we're actually, we're going to talk to another vendor we got another high bill from. And this one, we might actually be able to do a kind of a cool story about open source hardware and manufacturing. But,
the high level thing is
right now, we don't want to like,
yeah.
People are like, why aren't you like naming and shaming? It's like, we don't want people to pile on to these vendors and yell at them for something that they can't control. So they're not even in America.
The idea is if something's open source hardware of ours, people can make it in other countries.
And they do.
They do. Same thing goes for in the US. So if there's but
it goes the other way.
If there's open source hardware that people really want in the US, but the tariffs make it almost impossible, we'll talk to the various IP holders and things and see if we can do open source stuff so we can manufacture it locally and avoid some of the things. But who knows?
Yeah,
by the way,
things can change every
I'm
day.
hitting refresh on various news sites and they're saying there might be a total tariff reset.
I
think that's the name of a Bloody Mary, though.
I think just like...
I would totally have a total tariff reset Bloody Mary.
They listen to like one word from one discussion and they think it means something. It means nothing.
I missed the McLaughlin group.
This is spinning, the coat out of a thread. Okay, so we want to go to hardware now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I'm still spending way too much time doing tariff stuff because I set prices and do the margin calculations on all the products. So as we get each tariff bill, and we're getting like 10 a day sometimes, I have to like make sure that our prices reflect tariffs on components. So for example, espressos modules are designed in China, made in China. They're only made in China. They're not available anywhere else. I would love if they were available from other countries, but they're not. And people really want that particular chip. There's alternatives that we sell, but they don't sell nearly as well. And we sell the individual modules, but more importantly, we use those modules in stuff that we make. And so even if the assembly isn't made in China, if the main processor has a 300% increase in price because the tariffs are 200%, so the price went up, then I need to factor that in and bubble that cost across all the products. So the answer is I don't know. But I'm doing some hardware. I'm actually like got my notes here because I got a bunch of chips. Okay, so the first one is this SLB chip. So I'm gonna go to the overhead.
Okay, we're all set.
So this is
I
the
want to zoom in if I can.
yeah. I'm gonna do the lighting in this room a little better eventually. But for now, I'll just angle it so it doesn't reflect. Okay, so this is the SLB 9670VQ2 firmware version 785. This is a TPM2 module. We showed this off. This is actually a request, and at first I was like, I don't get it. But on the other hand, I'm like, well, I don't have to write any firmware for it. So this is a TPM module that you would use with a computer to add hardware TPM. So like my computer actually has a software TPM, but I'm actually curious. I might open it up and see like what are the sockets inside, and can I like make a breakout like this that will plug in. This is an SPI TPM. There's ones that like do different interfaces. There's one that does like a PCI bus interface, but this one is SPI. You can also use it with single board computers, although it's not clear to me like what you can actually do with it. But it's a pretty simple breakout, so I thought like we could stock it, and so I got the prototypes together, and I'll test this out. I think I'm just gonna like get the basic SPI interface working on Arduino, and maybe like the random number generator I think you can query, but then if you need to use it as an actual TPM, you'll need to use your computer BIOS or your Linux driver or whatever. But I don't know, maybe useful for some people because if you want a TPM module, if you want to do crypto, then it's available. Other stuff I designed, let's see, I've got this ST spin breakout. So, I did 2 stepper motor drivers, the A4988 and the TMC2209. We're getting more chips for those to get them in stock. But the ST spin can do very low voltages. So if you have like a 3-volt motor, you're running it off of 3 volts or less, or I think it can do like 2 volts to 10 volts. This is a very low cost. Compared to the TMC, it's much less expensive, I think. Can only do 1 amp, and it has a very simple interface. It can do 256 steps, microsteps per step, like microstep division, without needing UART or hardware. It's just hardware pin, so that's kind of nice. Just power, ground, direction, step. 2 configs, although the direction step apparently, if you reset it, whatever those default settings are will tell you the microsteps. Enable reset. I like the simplicity of this chip. It'll come with terminal blocks on it. This was a chip I kind of promised ST I would do a while ago. We kind of did a partnership deal, and I was like, yeah, I'm probably going to do it. And then the chip shortage happened, and then like I never got back to it, so I'm getting back to it. I think maybe I chatted about the INA one. So we have, I moved stuff into folders. So I've done the 228, but then I think like last time I was at DigiKey, I noticed that there was a lot of INA 237s in stock. Like they had like of all the INA series, because I think I was searching for like INA 2, and this came up and they had like 20,000 in stock. And whenever there's like a lot of something in stock, it's kind of good sign. Like, okay, that's a popular chip. People like it. And even though I've never used it, it's a 16-bit version of the INA 228. It goes up to 60 volts. I'm so used to this chip model that it was not a problem. It's actually pin out compatible with the 228, so it's actually the same PCB. I just changed the silk screen. What's nice about that is like you can use the same stencil, you can use the same pick and place program. You just swap the chip in and you're good to go. So I'll make a version of that because it's low cost and maybe people want a low cost version. And then last week we talked about ideal diodes, and we found on the Great Search the LM73100, and I was like so enamored by this ideal diode that I made a breakout for it. I don't think I did this last week. I'll admit, I'm really spaced out. Like, what's the date today? This I designed on the 6th. And what's the date?
The 11th.
11th. Okay, so it wasn't last. So I didn't show this last week. I don't even know what's going on. It's a little busy looking because even though it's only 5 amps, which is not like a huge amount, maybe it's continuous. So I made this 2-layer, the big power in and power out and ground. I made 2-layer, and I just stitched it a bunch to make sure it's well stitched. It's a 2-layer board, but I think that's fine. because it's like, what would a 4-layer board wouldn't benefit anything here? The ground plane is solid, or solid enough. The one thing that I did do is I added the pull up and pull downs to kind of make it standalone. So it actually has 2 modes. It's quite a nice ideal diode. If you have it like with enable pulled up and OV low pull down and then VI mon pull down, this basically acts just like a straight through ideal diode, like, up to 23 volts in, has some negative voltage, capability, it'll block, probably like 30, 40 volts, and it will just act as an ideal diode from this input terminal block to that output terminal block, which is beautiful because like 99% of the time that's what you want. But it does have a cool thing. You can do slew rate adjustments with the DVD pin. There's power good output and power good threshold, so you can like tell it, I want to have an indicator to tell me when power is going through properly. There's enable. There's an over voltage and an under voltage. Enable is actually under voltage, so you can set up a resistor divider. I put 2 1 meg resistors on here, which I figure are like enough to just pull the pin. But if you want to make up a resistor divider, you can override them, like, use a 10K and it'll just totally blow out the 1 mega ohm resistance. So you can set up a divider so it'll only turn on, like if you have like a 12 volt solar panel and you want to make sure nobody plugs in like anything above it, you could have the lower be 8 volts and the upper be 14, and then it will only turn on in between, which is kind of nice. And then I'm on, which is like also really nice. It's a voltage output that is linearly related to the current going out, and it's I think like 0.1 volts per amp, or maybe 0.2 volts per amp. No, I lied. It's 0.3 because I remember they said no more than 1.5 volts output. So the resistor set, so if it's 0 volts, 0 amps, 1.5 volts means it's 5 amps. And you can use that to also, if you only have an ADC, you don't want to do like current monitoring with a resistor. You don't have to have an inline resistor. So very nice, actually. This might come in handy because remember I was doing that solar power monitor. I may not need to use an INA chip. I could, use an analog, something with 3 analog inputs and just like a very inexpensive one and just monitor the analog voltages to get the current usage. Although the INA, what's nice is that it can do like repeated calculations for you on the fly. So I don't know, still thinking about it. But I thought would be nice to have as a standalone breakout. And then the last one, right, was the SC. These are just going through I have an old list of some chips that I was like, oh, I should get around to this. This is converters. This, it's a chip which I remember looking at before and it was very expensive, but then the price came down. It's like only $1 or so. So it's not too bad. This is a I2C to UART converter, and the chip is only like $1-ish. Although you do need a crystal oscillator, which is a little annoying, so it's another like 20, 30 cents. And you need level shifting, it's not too expensive, and a little regulator, but it'll give you a UART output. And what's nice is it has a kernel module as well. So you can connect this up to like your Jetson or your Raspberry Pi or whatever. And if it doesn't have a hardware UART, you can add a hardware UART. And there's I2C address pins on the back. You can jumpers, so you can have up to 4 of them on one bus, which is like, I think much easier, especially with the kernel module. You'll know like the name, like you can actually set it to be like, okay, it's always going to be this UART. You don't have to worry about the USB port, like having issues or changing the value or needing a driver for it, because like I said, it's built into the kernel. Okay, so how are you doing on time?
We are at the 15-minute mark.
Okay. Very Polony. All right, so let's, the other thing I did is I checked out GPT Codex. I tried out Codex, which is like a clone, not clone, but it's like ChatGPT's version, OpenAI's version of Claude Code. So I tried it out last night. I did get it working. I got it like interfacing with Arduino hardware, and it, using the same prompts as Claude, it actually was okay. What I kind of like about it is you can set the model So for example, with Claude Code, you're really stuck with 3.7. And I like 3.7, but I kind of like 3.5 a little bit more.
Did you talk to the model sommelier?
I don't, what?
I was making up, like, it sounds like a wine.
Oh, no, I mean,
you need a good pairing with that model.
Yeah, I mean, there's like,
string.
ChatGPT has like a ton of models. So, I tried O3, which is kind of its most advanced thinking model, but actually was too advanced. It just like sat there and thought for like 10 minutes and like it couldn't write any code.
Yeah, sorry about that. That was my suggestion.
And then we tried O4 Mini, which was kind of suggested for coding. So, it did work. It did get some stuff done. It does show you its thinking, which is okay. I'm still not convinced. I kind of still feel like the chat window version was a little faster, but Claude Code is actually pretty fast. I feel like I think like they've really tuned it. I sort of wish we could choose 3.5.
There's benchmarks and things that have specifics about how fast something is, but there's still a human element to it for now.
Yeah.
That each one has a different feel. But it's interesting. So, of course,
I think, look, if Codex was the only thing available, I would be happy with Codex, but I'm actually very happy with Claude
Gemini,
Code.
Flash, and stuff.
Well, they don't have a coding interface.
One note that I just have to always do so people can help get us get the word out with this. So we're moving to KiCad eventually. So when people see Eagle, we're just migrating. We have thousands of designs.
Look, man, I just don't have time right now.
So we
I'll do it later.
Sponsor KiCad and we do stuff, and we're really happy that there's an open source platform for everyone. We worked really hard when Eagle was independent to get an XML export, and so like we knew this was going to happen, and we want to use an open source tool only. It just takes us a while. There's thousands of designs.
Well, look,
one Ladyada.
Yeah.
Buy some hardware.
Leave me alone.
So
Okay.
What's next, Lady?
Okay, let's go to the Great Search.
Okay.
Where in the world is that part I need? The Great Search with DIGG.
The Great Search brought to you by DigiKey and Adafruit.
That's
Every single week, Ladyada looks into finding the things that you're trying to find. Ladyada, what's a great search this week?
Okay, so this week's Great Search is actually a topical one because actually, it's not the chip shortage, but chips still go out of stock and they go out of end of life, and we eventually have to find an alternative. So for the voice bonnet and the Braincraft hat, we've been using the Wolfson Cirrus WM8960, which has very good Raspberry Pi support, fairly easy to use. And what I like about this chip is it's an I2S codec, so it does audio in and out. And it has a couple niceties. You can have 2 microphones. So you see there's like this a mic here, a mic there, left and right mic. There's 2 speaker outputs that can do 8 ohms. So you can do stereo speaker output, which again is quite nice. And it can do headphone/line out. And it's true headphone, so like it does amplification for the headphone. It's not line out where it won't be able to drive a 32 ohm or 16 ohm load. So this is 8 ohm load, 32 ohm load. Again, it has Raspberry Pi support. It does need an M clock pin, but you can set up an oscillator, and then you just tell the driver, look, I have a fixed, I think 24 megahertz oscillator. This chip was expensive. It's like $7, which is why the cost of the whole thing is $25. And I'm still able to get some, but the prices are going up and up and up because it's very discontinued. It's completely obsolete, and so I want to find an alternative. And my requirements are I want something that has Linux kernel drivers because I do not want to write a kernel driver and get it into mainline. Ideally, somebody's even gotten it to work with a Raspberry Pi, especially with the M clock thing, because again, Raspberry Pi doesn't have M clock generation, so I need to give it an oscillator. And then tell it how to do the division for each, 44 kilohertz, 48 kilohertz, 22, whatever it is it's playing. Headphone output, microphone input, and like the microphone sounds good, so you can do voice projects. Because what was really nice is that with this, you plugged in with the Raspberry Pi, now you have mic and speaker output, and you could do projects that you could talk to and would talk back, or like to record audio. Good. It would be nice maybe if you could also do line in from maybe another headphone jack, but look, I'm whatever I can get. So the first thing I did Was this the chip? No, so this is Cirrus. This is the company that makes it. So first off, I just, the first thing you do is just like type in, WM, the chip, and they're like, yes, it's obsolete. And they're like, well, we have the 62 version. So here's the problem with the 62 version, because it's like, why don't you just go with it? First off, it's still kind of pricey. It's like $5-6. Second, it's like a fine-pitched WL CSP. So, and it's like only 4 millimeters by 4 millimeters. That means it's going to be like 0.4 millimeter pitch, which means I have to go to like plugged vias, 4 or 6 layer boards. I don't want to do that because not only is the chip expensive, but now like my process is expensive and my yield's going to go down. The picking places that we have in-house don't really do, I mean, they could do BGA, but like I don't have an X-ray machine and I can't even imagine how much an X-ray machine would cost now, especially with tariff additions. So let's find other codecs. So let's look in the codec. So one thing to look at here, data interface, I2 CSPI. Not too worried about it. Active. Oh yeah, this is the version that's active. 2 ADCs, 2 DACs. Resolution, whatever, sigma delta, I don't care. And the voltage also, I don't care. As long as everything's going to let me do 3.3 volt logic gate. I don't care if I have a separate 1.8 volt supply. I'm used to it. So let's look at codecs. So first off, let's look at only active codecs. And I'm going to ignore marketplace. I'm going to say normally stocking only. So that gets me from 1,500 down to like 240, which is good. Next, I'm going to look at those number of ADCs and DACs. And remember, it's like I need stereo line in, microphone in, and stereo output. And you might be wondering, well, wait a minute, the WM8960 had 2.2, but you had both headphone out and speaker out. Yeah, because it switches. You switch between the two, right? So I just want to make sure I have at least 2 in, 2 out. No, you can have up to like 6, 8. You have multiple line ins and multiple line out, but I need at least 2 supply. See what comes up. So a couple things came up. So let me just sort by price because why not? So there's the NAU 88 series. And I'll be honest, this doesn't look too bad. They have a lot of them in stock. However, and it's called the C, but I think that just means it's some subtype. It has speaker out, stereo, headphone out, stereo, microphone in, and line in. It's actually quite good. But when I looked around, there was a driver, but I couldn't see anyone who got it working on the Raspberry Pi. So this is like on my list. It's very inexpensive. It's only $1.22. So it might be worth the extra effort. But the fact that I couldn't find immediately someone who got it working with a Raspberry Pi was a little bit like, again, I really don't want to add a driver. Although it's on my list. Then I looked at the 9866. This one, look, I love Maxim. The problem is they only have headphone. There's no speaker. Although I do like that they have the 2 mics in. Bummer. So I'm going to skip that one. This is another one in the NAU series. It's very similar. This one is WLP. So a couple CSPs came in here. I was like, man, I really don't want to deal with this. So let's filter out all of the BGA and CSP chips. I'm only going to do QFN, QFP, mostly QFN. VSOP is fine. QFP, QFN. But no, I don't know if I'd go up to like a 64, but whatever, I'll pretend. And then leave off all the chip scale, all the BGA. Okay, now I have 121 chips. Okay. Then there was the TLV 320 series, which we know and love. And this one is actually somewhat promising too. This particular one, the 3104, I think it actually doesn't have speaker output. It has line output. But when I went to TI, I found that the 3101, which is here, it's a little bit more expensive. It's still not too bad. It's like $2. This one was very promising because it had full, I think it had speaker out. Let me check. Same as, yeah, so the, let me show you the speaker. Yeah, so stereo 8 ohm, only half watt, but that's okay. But it does have speaker and it has headphone drivers. So this one is also a good option. Let me sort by quantity. Let's see if I can find the chip. I looked at some of these. A lot of these only had headphone. They didn't have speaker. This one I think we looked at right, and it had headphone only. I looked at a bunch of these. Another one that came up that I actually kind of liked the look of, and I did see some people got it working with a Raspberry Pi. So I'm going to look at the TLV because the TLV is a chip I already kind of have a footprint for, and I have a working knowledge of it. And what I like is I have an Arduino driver for that series, and so if I test it, I can test it on Arduino, and it's like I can send it I2S audio, and I can, without having to use a Raspberry Pi to test it, which is always harder. This one has speaker, amplifier, it has headphone, it has line out, which I like, has mic in, and I'll be honest, I actually kind of like this as a recent chip from 2024. I like the Max 98 series. I've had really good luck with it. They're like kind of easy to use. You do need M clock as usual, but hold on. Yeah. There's a lot of like switchable pins and stuff for different, ports. Usually you can have like more than one I2S port. There's the mic bias, there's I2C for configuration, multiple microphone inputs, multiple line inputs, and then multiple, there's headphone and speaker output. Class D speakers, and like I said, I do like the speakers. Let's see if they have a limiter. Let's see if I can find the wattage. Speaker amplifiers will probably be here. It's annoying. They don't say how many watts it can handle. Oh, I have to do the ohm symbol. Hold on. Ohm. Yeah. Okay. Here you go. Sorry, it's here. So it can handle 4 ohm. 3 watts or 2 watts per channel 8 ohms. So it's actually like a really good speaker driver too. So I actually kind of like the look of this one. I mean, I'll look at the TLV. I'll also maybe check out the NAU because it's so cheap. But I actually, I got a good feeling about this one. The Max 98089. So this one's cool. It's a little pricey still, $4, but I think it might be worth it. I like all the extras that it comes with. So this is my pick for the great search. So I'll probably start working on a breakout for this in the next week or two.
That's a great search.
Can't get that Wilson chip anymore.
Good work. Wilson!
Where in the world is that part I need? The great search with DIGG.
All right.
Yes.
See everybody throughout the week. We got a bunch of stuff going on. We're going to do a bunch of things. But don't worry. We're going to take a walk too. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to take a walk. Talk about electronics.
There's going to be some new hardware coming into the store. Support Adafruit if you can. We'd love your support. We don't know what we're going to do, and we don't know what's going on. But we're doing our best, and we're not going to stop engineering and making stuff.
Here's a way to look at it. If Adafruit's not going to make it, that just means there's going to be a giant different way of life and a reset, because that just means we're not going to move forward with science, technology, and engineering. But if we do make it, because we all came together, think about how good that's going to be on the other side. You can't even imagine how good the future is.
I mean, we made it through the chip shortage. We made it through COVID.
Well, I mean, even like at a bigger high level, like if we could just like kind of get it together just a little bit, there's so many good things ahead. But if not, I'll be fighting over the last can of SpaghettiOs with my shiv. See you later, everybody.
Bye.